What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So hopefully you had a good weekend. Overall, had some fun here. We, of course, did the Spawncast Saturday night on YouTube and Mixer now, by the way, which actually went over pretty well. Then we also took a look at that new Nintendo Switch. Well, the new Nintendo Switch. Gave my final thoughts on if you should be upgrading to it. And then took a look at what's become my favorite controller, the 8-bit Do SN30 Pro Plus. Not my favorite name. They gotta change that up somewhat, but like the controller so far. So make sure you check those videos out if you missed them. Today, though, we have to go over an interesting trademark because it looks like one of my favorite retro companies right now, who's been making some awesome systems, seems to have put out a trademark that could be pointing to, and I'm not even kidding, a new Game Boy, and it has me very excited over here. And then we're also going to talk a bit about what could end up being several new Joycons coming out if this trend keeps up from what we're starting to see here. And we could see exclusive Joycons possibly at different retail outlets. We're going to talk a bit about that as well today. As always, guys, you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out a lot. We're going to start today actually with WB. Now, something actually popped up on Amazon seemingly over the weekend. Now, it's been hard to confirm if these are correct completely. I mostly wanted to bring them to your attention. Something else to keep an eye on as we go into Gamescom, because there could be an announcement there. But over on the Batman Arkham forums, as you're seeing here on Reddit, you can actually see some listings that appear to have been shared that show a couple of different listings on Amazon. We have WB Montreal, and this is pretty much led to the idea that there could be another Arkham game announced. There's also been a lot of Court of Owls teasing going on with the different staff and people on social media. So it's possible something could be happening, whether it's a spin-off or I thought they just wanted it to be 3 games and they were done, because I thought Rocksteady had moved on to something else, but maybe they'll throw us a curveball and they really do have something to announce at Gamescom. I mean, we keep thinking Rocksteady's going to announce their new game at like the next gaming show and then the next one, and no one's really expecting it for Gamescom, so hey, now's the time to announce it. Sure, why not? Or, maybe E3 or wherever, 5 years from now or something. Who knows? Rocksteady has just been missing for a while now. Also, A Hat in Time has been rated by the ESRB, both for the PlayStation 4 and the Switch. They appear to have also changed the rating. It was E10+. Now it's been seemingly upgraded to a teen rating. I think this has to do with a certain level in the game that I remember that had quite a bit of blood in it, even though it might not have been completely truthful what you see on screen there, but most likely that's probably what it's pointing towards. But the fact that it's also been rated by the ESRB probably means that the Switch version is not too far behind here. So we could be getting an announcement on social media, whether it's Twitter, for example, or even a trailer dropped on YouTube with the full release date for the Switch soon, as it's been again rated. Generally, you get it rated, it costs money, and then you have a release date ready to go. So we'll see, and I'll keep you guys up to date on that one. Also, Tarak 2 came out on the Switch over the end of the week last week. I got a chance to check it out over the weekend, and I noticed there's no multiplayer. The other versions of the game, the Xbox One, the PC, for example, have multiplayer. They have online multiplayer where you can set up rooms and play against friends, and it's pretty cool. To be honest, playing online on a game like that was on the 64 is really fun, but the Switch version came out, same price, but no multiplayer. Well, GameXplain managed to get some sort of explanation to a degree from the developer, saying, multiplayer is not in at this time. While we can't address specific features or issues, we are planning on continuing to support and update this title as we do with all Night Dive games. Now, after that, on Reset Era, one of the developers managed to stop in and explain a bit more about this, saying, as for why no network multiplayer, we're actually in the process of rewriting netcode, so it's only temporary, although there's no timeline. The existing netcode we wrote turned out to be quite unstable on Wi-Fi at the time, so I'm rewriting some chunks of this core logic to use Delta frames exclusively, and they go on further to explain a bit more about the technical details about why it's not there at launch. However, my one issue is you want to have the multiplayer ready to go at launch, because if this multiplayer doesn't come out till like the end of the year or something, a lot of people would have already moved on from it, and I'll go online and there won't be anyone there. Now, I could, of course, form like a room with some friends and we could play online, but having a population at start, right, when the game launches and people are really excited, is the best time to play online, because that's when everyone is there, of course, and then slowly they'll file out as new games come out. If this patch doesn't drop until like November, when everyone's gonna be playing Pokemon on the Switch, there's not going to be anyone to play with online. So it's a shame it's not there at launch. It should have been there at launch. Just keep in mind, the Tarak 2, no multiplayer right now on the Switch, and we don't know when it's coming, but I guess it's coming. And guys, some of the quickies out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with this Gameboy trademark. This is exciting stuff because Analogue makes very, very high quality products. I've actually talked about two of their systems here, their Super Nintendo and their Genesis systems, and they use hardware to create their systems in terms of like FPGA and everything. So they're not using emulation, they're using chips that are specifically designed to run these games, cartridges that you pop in to the top of them. Now, since then, firmware has been released that allows you to load games through the SD card slot. So we are to the point now where you technically can load up ROMs, but it all runs off hardware, which means it's like 1-to-1, so it looks great. It runs through HDMI, 1080p, and there's no lag. It's pretty much the best way you can play it on a modern TV, as long as you own the cartridges or you're, again, willing to run, we'll say, backups through the SD card slot. So you can understand why myself, and I'm sure several other people, are excited at the idea of them possibly tackling a Game Boy. Now, why do we believe that? Well, there's actually a trademark that they have filed too. One I'm not really sure of, and I'll bring it to your attention, and maybe you can let me know in the comments what you think it might be. But the other one, as you're seeing here, is simply for the Analogue Pocket. The other one I'm talking about is Analogue 8, but the Analogue Pocket, of course, it draws comparisons to something like the Game Boy Pocket or a handheld device. And in fact, if you read on the goods and services, it says consumer video game machines, namely video game machines and handheld games. And it goes on from there, and it says circa 2019. So we could be getting an announcement from Analogue in the next few months, possibly even weeks, we'll see, about a Game Boy that they're creating. Now, a lot of questions here. Is it going to be just Game Boy? Is it going to be Game Boy Color? Are they going to go up to Game Boy Advance? Or is this just a Game Gear? See, it could be a number of things. Maybe it's an Atari Lynx. No, most likely the amount of time and effort they would put into developing this, it would be something that at least has a following and some popularity behind it. And considering this would be their first handheld that I've seen, I assume they would tackle the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, maybe not the Game Boy Advance right out of the chute. I get why they might say, you know what, let's get Game Boy, let's get Game Boy Color, let's just put them together, and then we'll release it in a very, very nice shell and everything. We'll put a good screen. Analogue, please put a good screen in this thing, okay? That's the biggest. We're going to be looking at the screen constantly, obviously. I don't even really need a TV out, to be honest. It just put the money into that screen, okay? And we'll be good. Of course, FPGA, design a chip around it and everything, and have an SD card slot so that we can load backups through it. And I think they have something here. Now, it would be more expensive. Let's be real. Their Super Nintendo, their Genesis, they're hundreds of dollars. Now, sometimes you'll put a game in that's probably worth more than the system, like maybe you're a lucky owner of an EVO or EVO for the Super Nintendo, or an Earthbound, for example. Well, that generally costs more than their Super Nintendo systems. So for collectors, hundreds of dollars for a high-quality product is not a big deal because they want a high-quality product, not a cheap product that's going to break after a year, or they have to risk putting their more expensive games into. So yes, I'm sure myself and others will spend the extra money. The other question is, Analogue 8. What is that? I was thinking an 8-bit system, but they've already done a Nintendo. That's done. Their Genesis plays Master System games. I don't know. I'd like to think that it could be something that's not even 8-bit related technically, and could be like a TurboGrafx 16. That would be really cool. But who knows? I mean, it could even be like an Atari 7800 system that plays 2600 games as well. You could do that. That would be cool. But yeah, Analogue 8 and then their Analogue Pocket. Exciting stuff coming, and the Analogue Pocket definitely has my attention. Next up, let's talk about a Kickstarter that exploded over the weekend. I was going to cover this on Thursday or Friday, and I looked at this and I said, I'm not sure, because this is the thing, it's technically a dock for the Switch. And whenever I hear dock, I get a little concerned, okay, because we've been through this before where, systems get bricked and everything, but it seems like this company has done their homework. They've already made accessories that that plug in to the USB-C port on the Switch, and they go into a very long paragraph talking about their experiences, their research, and their ability to manage the power correctly in the Switch. This, as you're seeing here, is the Genki Dock for the Nintendo Switch. It is a small brick, like what you'd expect, like on the end of your Switch right now when you plug in that power brick. It's that, but it's a dock. It's a very interesting idea for a travel dock to just be the size of like an end of a power brick, and then you plug your Switch in through the HDMI there, or then it comes out the other end. So you have USB-C running from your Switch to the dock, and then you have HDMI coming out of that going to the TV. Yeah, that would be pretty neat to have that, and great for traveling. Now, it appears that $60 gets you into the Kickstarter, and at this time, as you can see, it is well over $700,000. So they smashed their $50,000 goal immediately. It was so fast. Like if you would refresh the page, it was going up by thousands of dollars an hour. It was pretty insane to see. So it seems like people are really excited about the idea of a dock that can fit in your pocket without any issues traveling. And yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. Now, we'll see when it comes out, people get them and they try them out, because we've seen Kickstarter horror stories before. But I am hopeful that with some of the experience that Genki has had, which of course they've done things like the Bluetooth adapters that plug into the bottom, for example, and power can go through that. So we'll see, but so far, at least what they have here and the pricing, which at $60 isn't too bad for what they're offering, I can see why people are very interested in this. Next up, let's talk about some exclusive Joy-Con controllers that appear to be exclusive to Best Buy. Here's a picture of them. Wario64 tweeted them out. That's how it caught my attention, and I checked out Best Buy. They appear to be coming out at the end of October 27th, which makes sense. It falls in line with Luigi's Mansion. It's all green. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And what appears to be happening here, according to Wario64 with the exclusive tag, and I've also looked into other places, this looks like something that at least at launch will only be available at Best Buy. Now, you have been able to get green Joy-Con controllers before, but they never came together like this. So you'd have to mix and match. You'd have to do some importing. For example, I can go on Amazon now and get the right one fairly easily, but then the left one I have to do a little more work to get. And then you are spending generally at least $100 to $120. If you have to get two different pairs, you're up to what, $160? This is just straight up Best Buy selling two green Joy-Con controllers, much easier to get, for $80. And will we get to a point now where we see retail establishments pick up Joy-Con controllers as exclusives? I mean, I guess they can. I mean, the Switch is getting large enough install size to where these are relevant to these retailers. They look at that and say, hey, if we had purple Joy-Con controllers, they would have me show up and buy them, because I want purple Joy-Con controllers, and I have no idea why Nintendo is releasing it as a purple and an orange. Nintendo, what are you doing? But think about like Joy-Con controllers that you want right now, like your favorite colors that you would like the Joy-Cons to be in right now, but they're not. And then here comes Target, and they say, you know, we have this color in stock now. We have gold Joy-Con controllers in stock right now. You can come pick them up, or you can set a pre-order like you can here for Best Buy, and you can only get them at Target. And it makes sense for retailers because they're trying to get foot traffic. So we could be heading into a time, we'll see if there's any other exclusive ones. I'm really curious if this becomes a thing where, yeah, they have exclusive colors for Joy-Cons and they deal with Nintendo, they negotiate with them to make that happen. That could also get Nintendo maybe more on board with some Joy-Con controllers, and we could see some cool ones come out of this too. We'll see if this is just like a one-time thing with Best Buy for the Luigi's Mansion release, or if there already are some in the works and retailers, like I said, Target or Walmart or others, already have some stuff in mind. And our last bit of news, let's talk about Capcom and Resident Evil, because, well, we know Resident Evil is, of course, going to continue on. Obviously, Resident Evil 2 has actually been doing pretty well. Capcom reported that it's sold over 4.5 million copies at this time. For a horror, mature-rated game, that's very, very good, but Resident Evil 2 Remake, we'll say, was pretty good. I liked it a lot. Honestly, that's up there for one of my Game of the Year selections so far this year. We still have plenty of games to come out, but that tells you something about the attention to detail for that game. And of course, we feel like Resident Evil 3 and then Resident Evil 8 are probably slated. Resident Evil 3 being a remake, Resident Evil 8 being a new one, and it looks like at least something is happening with Capcom as they sent this out. This email was actually provided by Patrick Copeland on Twitter saying, just got this via email. That Res Evil super secret game test is coming to the US Resident Evil Ambassador program. Now, what had happened previously was that Capcom had reached out to different people in the ambassador program in Japan, and now it appears that they are coming to America, the US, for the end of September in LA and New York. And they'll have essentially people who are familiar with Res Evil come in and test this game that, as they say, is in early development. I feel like there are at least 2 games in development right now underneath the Resident Evil umbrella, we'll say, which actually makes sense, no pun intended there for Resident Evil umbrella. But underneath that umbrella, there's probably 2. There's probably Resident Evil 3 as a remake, and there's probably Resident Evil 8. I also had the thought that there could be some kind of Resident Evil service-based game, like online type game, or it could be like Outbreak, or there's a lot of things it could be. I just feel like the safe bet right now to expect is something like 3 and 8. I don't think they'd have to test 3 because, I mean, it's a remake of an older game. 8, though, could go in a wildly different direction from 7, and they want to get some input on it. That would be my guess, is that this is all for Resident Evil 8, and they're checking out to see how fans react to some crazy new idea, like how they did 7 with their first-person view and VR. Who knows what they have in store for us for 8, but I'm curious. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from Batman3217 saying Nintendo should have had SNES games 6 months after they start selling the Switch. So it's pretty funny how this all works out, really. I think Nintendo wasn't really sure how they wanted to tackle this online service. I think the NES games they kind of threw in there and said, you know what, maybe this can just get us over the edge for that $20 a year with the online service being part of that. We've offered it for free, but hey, now you're getting all these NES games. I think they just weren't ready. I think there's a bit of a rush there, and what I really think they should have done was have, instead of doing this thing where you build up this game library of NES games, they should have just had a Netflix-style app ready to go with generations of games ready to go from the start, right? They should have had everything. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, GameCube even, like all this stuff, the Wii, and then just charged a monthly fee. It shouldn't really be a part of the online service. They should have cycled those games in and out of that service like PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold does that. But they're leaving money on the table. I'm gonna be really curious what happens next month and see if they do cycle in Super Nintendo games, or maybe they have an idea of an online app like Netflix. We'll see, though. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's the Game Boy Analogue trademark. Do you think they're making a Game Boy one, or do you think they're making like a Game Gear? I mean, it says Analogue Pocket. I guess it could be anything handheld related, so let me know what you think about that down below. Also, what about retailers getting exclusive Joy-Con colors? Do you think that's a good idea, because then Nintendo will have reason to really start creating more, or do you think that's bad because you might not have a Best Buy near you, for example? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.